The world's hidden disasters, when human suffering goes unnoticed. What if I told you that while the world generated over 125,000 news articles, estimates about a British rock band reuniting, a drought affecting over 2 million people in Angola received just 1,956 articles during the same period? That's not a typo. That's the attention economy deciding that celebrity gossip is 64 times more newsworthy than a looming famine. Welcome to the most dangerous hierarchy on Earth, the global disaster attention deficit, the invisible emergency. Right now, as you're watching this video, 61 million people across southern Africa are facing the consequences of what scientists call the worst drought in over 40 years. The soil beneath their feet is baked hard as concrete. The air shimmers with temperatures that have risen nearly 2 degrees Celsius since the 1960s. Maize crops, the foundation of survival for 70% of the region, have withered into brown skeletons across 1 million hectares. Yet most of the world has never heard this story. Here's what the media won't tell you. Attention is the most valuable currency in humanitarian response, and it's distributed based on spectacle, not suffering. There's a predictable formula to disaster coverage, and understanding it reveals why millions of people are abandoned to face catastrophe in silence. Pause for a moment and think. When was the last time you saw a major news story about a drought? Drop a comment if you can remember one from the past year. The three faces of neglect. The creeping catastrophe. The Southern Africa drought represents what researchers call the creeping catastrophe. A disaster without a focal event. There's no collapsing building, no dramatic rescue footage, just the slow, methodical destruction of entire ways of life. In Angola, families are selling their last possessions to survive. The sound you'd hear walking through affected villages isn't screaming or chaos. It's an eerie quiet, broken only by the persistent buzz of flies and the distant bleating of dying livestock. Children's ribs are becoming visible through their skin as malnutrition spreads. Yet this crisis, affecting approximately 2 million people, remains virtually invisible. 2. The obscured catastrophe. Lake Chad presents our second archetype, the climate disaster hidden behind a more sensational story. For over a decade, media coverage has focused on Boko Haram terrorism in the region. But here's the contrarian truth scientists are now revealing. The violence isn't the root cause, it's a symptom. The real story is environmental collapse. Lake Chad's ecosystem now swings between devastating droughts that turn fertile land into desert and catastrophic floods that destroy what little agriculture remains. This climate volatility shattered traditional livelihoods and created the desperation that extremist groups exploit. The terrorism narrative, while important, masks the foundational disaster that continues to destabilize 40 million lives. 3. The forgotten catastrophe. Our third case study reveals the cruelest bias of all, temporal neglect. Cyclone Idai strikes Mozambique in March 2019 with the fury of a Category 2 hurricane. 90% of Beira City, 500,000 people, sees their infrastructure obliterated in a single night. The winds howl at 175 kilometers per hour. The storm surge tastes of salt and diesel fuel, and the darkness is punctuated by the crack of collapsing buildings. The world watches. International media arrives. The story dominates headlines. Then the cameras leave, but Idai's real devastation is just beginning. 2 weeks later, cholera explodes through the survivors. 400 new cases daily at its peak. The timing of the storm, just before harvest season, wipes out 715,000 hectares of crops, plunging millions into years of hunger. A study from 2023 reveals that families still living in storm-damaged homes have triple the malaria risk nearly a year later. Which of these three scenarios terrifies you most? The slow burn of drought, the hidden crisis beneath terrorism, or the abandoned aftermath? Let us know in the comments. Why this pattern kills? This isn't just about unfair media coverage, it's about life and death resource allocation. The UN's humanitarian appeal for Cyclone Idai recovery? Less than 50% funded. Zambia's drought response, only 21% of required funding received. When the cameras aren't rolling, the money doesn't flow. Here's the paradigm shift you need to understand. We're not looking at random media failures. This is a structural feature of our global information system. Quick, visually dramatic disasters in geopolitically important regions get attention. Slow onset crises affecting the global South's most vulnerable populations get silence. As climate change accelerates, this attention deficit becomes a death sentence. The IPCC projects that extreme weather events will increase in frequency and intensity. The populations least responsible for climate change, subsistence farmers in Angola, pastoralists around Lake Chad, coastal communities in Mozambique, will face the worst impacts. But they'll face them alone, unseen by a world that has chosen to look away. Scientists recently discovered that this crisis of attention creates what they call disaster apartheid, a two-tiered system where your chances of survival depend not on need, but on newsworthiness. The path forward. The solution starts with you understanding this hidden architecture of attention. Every time you choose to learn about these neglected crises, every time you share these stories, you're redistributing the world's most valuable humanitarian currency. Remember, behind every statistic is a human face. The 61 million affected by drought aren't numbers. They're mothers rationing the last cups of water, farmers staring at dead fields, children whose education has been interrupted by hunger. If this opened your eyes to disasters you'd never heard of, hit that subscribe button and share this video. The Disaster Research Notes channel is building a community of people who refuse to let suffering stay silent. Because in our interconnected world, no disaster should ever be invisible. Your attention can save lives. Your awareness can redirect resources. Your voice can break the silence that kills. The question isn't whether you can make a difference. The question is whether you will.